Hey there, and welcome to CHALKBOARD Diaries podcast. I am Jane, and I am a teacher. And this is the place where I share with you the stories, the insights, and the lessons I have learned throughout my journey in teaching. So, from the classroom to the online world, we will be exploring the highs and the lows of being an educator. So, grab a seat, get comfortable, and join me as we dive into today's episode. Hello, today we are going to talk about something that has been a game changer in the world of teaching: digital games. Now, when I say digital games, you might think of video games for fun or for entertainment, but what if I told you that these games could actually be powerful tools for teaching and learning? That's right. In today's episode of our very first podcast, we are diving into how digital games can transform the learning experiences by engaging students. And we will see how digital games actually help shape education in new, innovative ways. First up, let's talk about gamification. So, I have an article that I would like to share with you. This is from Youngstown State University. It's entitled "Using Digital Games for Teaching and Learning: What Teachers Should Know About Gamification in the Classroom." And this was released just last year 2024. So, let's talk about what is gamification. So, gamification in education, this refers to the incorporation or integration of game elements into non-game contexts to enhance engagement and motivation. So, it's basically saying that we use games, be it digital or not, in education to enhance engagement and motivation among the learners. As explained by Jordan Nisbet, game-based learning, or GBL, actually uses educational games to define and support learning outcomes, incorporating elements like engagement, rewards, and healthy competition to keep students motivated while learning. So, gamification also applies when game design principles and mechanics are there to transform traditional educational activities into a more dynamic and interactive multimedia experience. So, this could also include the incorporation of multimedia elements where we can use digital games for gamification in the classroom. And let me share with you how we can use gamification in the classroom. So, to implement gamification effectively, educators should start by setting a clear learning objective and choosing games that would align with these goals. So, initially, it's best to use simple games and gradually introduce more complex ones as both teachers and students become more comfortable. So, let's not shock our students with the games. Let's enter it subtly and start with the simple ones and introduce more challenging games so that we could keep them engaged. And it's important that the digital games that we will be choosing and using should complement and not distract from the curriculum. So they would act as tools to reinforce traditional teaching methods. So they should not be there to distract our students or to stray away from the very core or the very objective of our lesson, but it should aid the discussion. And let me share with you from the same article what are the benefits of gamification in the classroom. So gamification offers several benefits, including increased engagement, motivation, and collaboration. Games often have multiple levels, making them accessible to students of different skill levels, and they help develop responsibility and accountability. So, when we give students more control over their learning, gamification, when used properly, actually encourage them to take ownership of their own progress. And of course, I would not proceed with our podcast this morning without me giving examples of some tools that you can use in your own classroom. So the first one is Kahoot. I have been using Kahoot since I was a practice teacher, because we were products of the pandemic. And I was very proud to say that even when other people would say that the pandemic was not an enough training, I say it's the opposite. We were trained to teach no matter what the situation is. We were taught to teach, to continue teaching even when the situation is not in our favor. So having been trained and learned during the pandemic season, it opened our eyes to the possibility of multimedia, to the possibilities of technology, how we can leverage it for our students to learn. So Kahoot is a quiz platform that makes learning competitive and fun. So you can use this one to start a healthy competition among your learners. Who could garner the most points could receive, let's say, a reward or an extra point for their activities and such. Another example would be Prodigy Math. This is for mathematics teacher. This is a game that turns math practice into an adventure. This would be very helpful for students who are afraid of learning math, me included when I was a learner. So learning about Prodigy Math, this actually helped lessen the anxiety of the learners or the nervousness of the learners to learn the subject itself. And then next one would be Minecraft Education Edition. This is a very popular one among our learners since they are very into online games this day. So this is a game promoting creativity and collaboration while we teach subjects like math and history. So this is a very interesting way for them to learn. They could go into an adventure and learn about the concepts that they need to learn. And then next one is a Classcraft. I haven't personally used this one, but this is actually a role-playing game that enhances student engagement and behavior. Then the next one, which is an all-time favorite as well, is Quizzes. This is a real-time quiz platform that makes review sessions interactive. So we use this for review seasons before the examination so that they would remember the concepts that they need to remember, apply the concepts that they have learned, and it would be best for them to have a review before the examination so that they would know what to expect during their exam. And another special favorite of mine are Google Slides and or Canva. I really like creating PowerPoints that are interactive, meaning the students can manipulate it, the students can click on objects and that it would lead them to another page or have like an adventure. I did a escape room type of thing activity using Canva alone, so it was very interesting in my literature class. So I would give them the link, and then during our class, if I would be asking them to bring their own devices, so they could click on the link, and then we would go into an adventure how we can solve different levels. And then after each level, we would be learning the concepts that they have solved during the escape room. And that, my friends, are some of the examples that you can use for the gamification, or what we call the digital games. So these are not games per se, but for me as an educator, I can utilize these things. I can manipulate them to make them into games. Let's proceed with our next segment, the power of engagement. All right, let's begin with one of the most important aspects of education, engagement. If you have ever been in a classroom, you know how hard it can be to keep our students engaged. We have all been there, students staring at the wall. They would zone out during our lectures. They would doodle, they would daydream, or basically they would struggle to stay focused during our lesson. And the only way to make sure that they learn is that they are keep engaged with the discussion. So why is engagement important? So according to Dr. Ellie Sutton in her 2021 study, she said that student engagement can be seen as the glue that holds together all aspects of student learning and growth. Because not only does student engagement make teaching itself more fun, engaging, and rewarding, but it has been shown to have critical impacts on students. So when students display high levels of behavioral engagement, emotional engagement, and even cognitive engagement, they are more likely to excel academically. So they form a stronger sense of connection with the learning materials, learning resources, in this case, the games or the gamification, and have a more positive sense of social emotional well-being because they're collaborating with their classmates or collaborating with the material itself. And this is where digital games or gamification comes in. So games, particularly educational ones, they have the unique ability to engage students by making learning interactive and fun. Digital games actually tap into something that traditional methods often miss, which is active participation. So instead of listening all day about us blabbering or talking about or discussing the things that we need to discuss, research has actually shown that students who play educational games tend to retain information better because they are not just passively absorbing content, they're actively involved in the learning process. So as they play the games, they are involved in the process of learning new concepts or connecting new concepts with old ones. James Polgy, who is a leading scholar on game-based learning, he argued that games are designed to promote active learning. So unlike traditional educational approaches, games encourage trial and error, problem solving, and collaboration, all of which are very important skills for students to develop. So I do also think that when we include games or digital games in our classes, it encourages the student to participate more, to learn more, because somehow it gives them a sense of, oh, so that we could complete the adventure or that we could win this game, I need to be active, I need to be participating, I need to be reading the questions properly, I need to work with my teammates so that we could win. So it encourages them to learn outside the box, perhaps you can say that. And it's a very interesting sight when I would see my learners work together and that they would figure out the things that they need to figure out for the game so that they could understand what we are discussing. I had a class once for I believe it was grade 10 students. I used Dora, the adventures of Dora, to keep them hooked into our discussion. Although Dora is for the younger audience, it was very interesting for me to see them like related to their childhood memories. Like, oh, I used to watch this and this is how she would do it, so this is how we should do it too. So that's very interesting. Next up, let's talk about cognitive and emotional benefits. So we will be tapping into the cognitive and emotional benefits of gamification inside the classroom. And let's talk about how games not only engage students but also enhance these developments. So when they are immersed in the digital games, they often have to solve problems, they think critically, and they make decisions on the go. So these games can provide immediate feedback, which helps students to learn from their mistakes in real time. So with what I was saying a while ago, with the adventures of Dora that we have used, some of the questions have immediate feedback. So for example, if they, in a multiple choice type of question for the adventures of Dora, if they clicked on the wrong answer, it would give them an immediate feedback and clue as to how they can make it right. So this helps them learn from their mistakes in real time, and the challenges and the rewards in the game create a sense of accomplishment, which boosts their motivation to finish the game. So a study by Bach et al. In 2022 found that students who played digital games in the classroom setting not only performed better in their subjects but were also more motivated and engaged. So this emotional connection with the material is the key. So when they feel motivated, they are more likely to succeed. So the digital game-based learning strategy is a better option for improvement of engagement of learners towards learning and critical thinking skills. I agree that they are more motivated and engaged, especially we could not deny that there are some learners who would rather sit or not pay attention, or they would rather be doodling on their notebooks. But when we incorporate the idea of games, of digital games, it somehow gives them an encouragement to participate because it makes learning fun. And as a 21st century learner and a teacher, I appreciate the efforts of the world of education today to incorporate these kinds of games, because growing up when I was in elementary, I would often have seasoned teachers, and games weren't really part of the learning. And although I do love studying, but it takes away the fun in learning. So adding games into it, it brings somehow a sense of hope that learning could be fun, and it is fun. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about is personalized learning and adaptability. So one of the most exciting things about digital games is their ability to personalize the learning. I agree with this one. So with games, learning can be tailored to the needs of each student. So if some of students are struggling, we can use games to adjust the difficulty of the level to provide extra support. And if a student is excelling, the game can challenge them even more with complex tasks. So this adaptive learning is something that's tough to achieve in traditional classroom settings. I agree. It's when we incorporate gamification in our classroom, it somehow adjusts the learning based on what the student needs. Since we are incorporating games, we can differentiate or include a variety of difficulty level in the game. Or let's say, for example, if this level is the strength of another learner and then this level is the weakness of the other learner, we could see them collaborating, or vice versa. If this is the strength of the member and this is the strength of the leader or the weakness of the leader, they could collaborate to make it past that level and learn from what they had just finished in their games or adventure. So for example, many math games like Prodigy or Kahoot offer instant feedback and adjust the level of difficulty based on how well the student is doing. So this type of individualized attention helps students progress at their own pace, ensuring they are always challenged but not overwhelmed. I like that phrase, challenged but not overwhelmed. We could, even if it's not a group game, if it is an individual quiz game or a educational game, it's actually better because we could individualize the questions based on their own understanding of the lesson. So I stand by it that gamification is very important to keep students engaged, but enough to keep them challenged but not overwhelmed. And next one, I would like to talk about collaboration and social learning. Another powerful aspect of gamification or digital games is its ability to foster collaboration. This is what I've been talking about since a while ago, but let's get into it. So many games today are multiplayer, which means students can learn together whether they are in the same classroom or across the globe. And these collaborative games encourage teamwork. They allow students to communicate with one another and they interact with one another. So it touches social interaction and communication, which are the skills that are very important to be thriving and to be successful in the modern world. Because you need to work with people in the workforce, you need to communicate with different kinds of people, and you need to interact with these people. In fact, studies have actually shown that students who engage in multiplayer games often improve their communication and problem solving abilities. So for example, in the games like Minecraft, the one that I've mentioned a while ago, students can collaborate on building projects, they solve problems together, and even teach each other new skills. Even with the escape room that I have mentioned a while ago, this is a great game for them to develop their ability to communicate with one another, because they need to solve puzzles, they need to find clues, find hints in order for them to escape the room. So these social learning experiences can be incredibly valuable, especially in an increasingly globalized world. Nowadays, being alone is being romanticized. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's still power in our ability to work with people because it gets the job done. And teamwork makes the dream work. But I do not have anything against being alone. They also need to learn to be independent, or what we call autonomous learning. And then next one, let's talk about real world applications and the future of game based learning or digital games incorporated in the classroom. So the question now is, where do we go from here after learning all of these things? Okay, gamification is helpful in the classroom. It enhances engagement, motivation, but what now? So the future of education is looking brighter with the continued integration of games or digital games into the curriculum. Because the world is rapidly changing, we could see that technology is advancing every single day, and we can expect to see an even more advanced or immersive or interactive games in the future that teach everything from math, from English, from science to languages. We even have laboratories for simulation, for science experiments, for math activities, etc. So gamification, where elements of digital games are incorporated into non-game context, it's starting to be relevant, or it's starting to be the trend in education. So simple things like earning badges, giving them points, different levels in the classroom, these things can engage the engagement and motivation of our students. So according to a paper by Ding, gamification can create a fun and motivating learning environment by tapping into students' intrinsic desire for achievement and progress. I agree, because when you look around, technology, it has no way of stopping its development and advancement. So the key here is to use it, to leverage it in a way that it would assist us in teaching our students, that it would aid the learning process and make teaching and learning even more fun for our students. So teachers, to wrap it up, so gamification or digital games are changing the way we approach education. So please be reminded that they are not there for entertainment. They're not just there for fun, but they are actually powerful tools that we can use to engage our students in our discussion, encourage them to collaborate with one another, and helps us to even create differentiated learning methods. So as educators, it's very important that we embrace this change, we embrace these innovative tools, these digital games, and consider how they can help us create a more challenging, more dynamic, more engaging, and more interactive classrooms. So let us stray away from the idea that change is bad. Actually, change is good. We can use it to our advantage to help us to make teaching a little bit easier and fun for us as well. So thank you for joining me today on Chalkboard Diaries with Jane. So this is the very first episode of our podcast. I had fun reading about a lot of things regarding gamification or the incorporation of digital games into the classroom. So I hope that this podcast episode gave you some new insights into how games can reshape education. But most importantly, we have to remember to still keep our games aligned with the competencies that the students need to learn, with the objectives and with the goals of learning. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with the fellow educators. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, keep teaching with a heart and with passion. Thank you very much. This has been Jane for Chalkboard Diaries.